very uncomfortable. I've said that before, and you don't have to put that in the minutes.
No, I agree, Bill. It's incommodious to have meetings like this. Tonight we've got things on the agenda. It's over $250,000.
Absolutely, John. You're absolutely right. Well, I hope we're going to have a good discussion. And I guess I'll let Derek take this item and give us the highlights for it. But would you start with introducing our guests still around? I know Sohail's on. Sohail, you are on, right?
Yes, I am.
And I guess we have representatives from the manufacturers that have been on this, and will you introduce their names?
Yeah. So we have a couple of members on the call, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Jen, if you want to start, ladies first, and feel free to proceed through the grouping. Just kind of give your name, your title, and your the work that you do for your organization, if you could, please.
Derek,
Okay,
I was
great.
I was going to ask if everybody can mute their phone while somebody else is talking. Sometimes the background noise cuts off the speaker. I'm going to mute my phone, and if everybody else would too.
That's a good suggestion, Laura. So if you could, everybody, just mute your phone when you're not speaking. It'll help to cut back on the feedback. So go ahead, Jen.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Great. So my name is Jennifer Wagner. I am Vice President of Hamlet Environmental Technologies. We are a manufacturer's representative here in Michigan. Our office is actually in Howell. Randy Hamlet is also on the call too, so I'll let him introduce himself. But yeah, we'll be talking a little bit regarding the equipment proposed for the water resource recovery or wastewater treatment plant there in Grosse-Ile. We've been working with the facility directly with CE Rains and as well as Derek to kind of propose some options for getting the equipment back up to good operating condition. Our company has been around since 1995, and Randy can talk to that a little bit more too. And our bread and butter is working with water and wastewater treatment facilities to provide solutions and to support their installations and service throughout the year. So we're really excited to participate in the meeting today and answer any questions that you guys have regarding the equipment, as well as kind of our approach to the project.
Yeah, we're good. This is Randy Hamlet. And I'm actually a past owner of Hamlet Environmental. I am the founder of the company. We have a transition working right now over the next few years with the ownership. Jennifer is a new owner, and then we have Scott Kafka, who's not on the call here, but he's our president. So I've been involved in the water wastewater industry basically my whole career. And I've been kind of brought into this particular project just to provide some, call it some senior oversight, and obviously with my history of process and involved with this particular type of equipment, just another resource to make certain that we had more eyes, as many eyes as possible, looking at the the needs of the project. And obviously developing, the most viable and long-lasting solutions. So we're super excited. This is exactly what we do day in, day out. Certainly looking to improve and make the resources for Grosse-Ile, more reliable and obviously for the long-term future. So we'll certainly be talking about the technical side of this as the meeting moves on here. But again, we're very happy to be involved, and I'm looking forward to a very successful project for you.
Will you do the summary?
Yeah. So if everybody recalls, we had budgeted for a variety of different capital improvement projects over at the wastewater treatment plant for this fiscal year. If you look back into action items A1 and A2, there is a budget amendment which is listed on our agenda as item number 10. And that budget memo addresses the capital work that we had planned. And we're talking about two of the components from the budget capital project list tonight. And those are the primary clarifier rebuild replacement and the secondary clarifier center drives, and that's a quantity of 2. So that's what your A1 and A2 action items are tonight. The primary clarifiers are housed inside the wastewater treatment plant. The secondary, or we term them final clarifiers interchangeably, are on the outside of the facility, basically housed towards the rear of the facility. So both of these clarifiers, or the set of clarifiers, both inside and outside, had planned to have work done on them this year. So in addressing these capital projects with our engineers, we wanted to formulate a strategy moving forward that was not only on schedule and was expedient, but also maximized our dollar figures that we have available, and also that it ended up being a successful project. Those were the primary goals within this fiscal year on these 2 specific items. So Rains went out, discussed the 2 projects with Hamlet based upon their qualifications, and also the fact that they're the sole source provider in the state of Michigan for the equipment that will be utilized in the rebuild of these 2 clarifiers, the rebuild of the equipment associated with these clarifiers. And Hamlet, through their vendors, they brought their vendors in that supply this type of equipment, and they developed a couple of different solutions for the rebuild of this equipment. So what I'd like to take a look at is action item number A1 first. And I'll kind of start out at the bottom level here, because I know that the operations of the plant are fairly complicated, so I'm going to let the commission kind of dictate where this conversation goes about how deep into an explanation you want to receive. But basically, what we have on the inside of the plant are 3 primary clarifier tanks. So these are basically the first step in the process in removing solids from the effluent stream. The equipment that we have for these 3 tanks date back probably 40 or 50 years, and I think you can see in the pictures that were provided in the action item packet, what you're seeing there is some pretty old equipment that's in pretty poor shape. Our operator has identified those as a priority for replacement, so that's why they were in the budget. What you are seeing in those pictures, though, are only the items that are above basically the surface. What you're not seeing is the equipment that is located within the tank. So if you take a look back at the equipment information that Brentwood and Nathan and Jen have provided with Hamlet, you can kind of see what exists below the surface. It's basically a weir system that operates off a chain-type drive that's driven by a motor and a clutching system that basically moves these weirs back and forth. So what they've proposed here is the replacement of all of that equipment in order to make sure that we have a unit that is brand new and operable. We've also received pricing for the replacement of equipment, or at least the purchase of the equipment for a second tank. So tank number 2 so we would basically get equipment for tank 1 and tank 2. The third would then wait. The purchase of that second set of equipment would be dependent upon how the bids come in for the installation of the first piece of equipment. So there's some conditions that would allow us to back out of that purchase if we end up getting the bids in and they come in higher than anticipated for the install of this work. So the action item is a bit flexible to account for that. We want to do a direct purchase for this equipment rather than bidding it out with a contractor for installation and provision of the equipment for a couple of different reasons. One, there's a cost savings to it from a direct purchase. And number 2, there's also a time savings if we do a direct purchase. You'll see that Hamlet has provided in both action items a bit of information about what kind of schedule we can anticipate by doing a direct purchase versus doing a purchase through a vendor. And when we look at primary clarifier number 3, If we do a direct purchase, we're looking at equipment delivery in January of 2021. If we do an equipment purchase through a vendor that would be doing the install, we'd be looking at an equipment delivery around the end of May of 2021. So there's a significant difference. Our intent is to do a direct purchase and then utilize the time that the equipment is being manufactured to bid out the installation of that work. So basically, we're doing those two things, the fabrication of the equipment and the bidding of the installation concurrently, rather than doing the bidding of the installation and the equipment together, which would then push out the order of the equipment farther, which would then put us essentially what amounts to outside of the fiscal year. So that's what's being recommended. There's a letter from Raines which touches on that and also makes a recommendation for that type of method, and also addresses some of the concerns that might arise from an owner-supplied equipment standpoint, and any issues that might arise when you provide the equipment and give it to a vendor that is installing it, how that's handled. And I'd like Hamlet to touch a little bit on that when they talk tonight about their support after delivery with installation, because that's really the only concern that I can see in this situation where you have an owner-supplied piece of equipment rather than a vendor that's doing the install and the supply of the equipment. And just I want one piece of information to be provided, and that's this type of equipment is the type of equipment that the installer would provide. So it's not a situation where you would end up having a vendor that's doing the installation say, hey, I want to use this equipment or I want to use that equipment and I'm not happy with the equipment you provided. I don't normally work with that. Essentially, any vendor that's doing the install would be using this equipment through this vendor, being that they're sole source for the type of equipment that we need at the plant. So I know there's a lot here to take in. Maybe Hamlet can touch a little bit on things I might have left out, and then we can take questions about what you're seeing here and what you might need clarification on.
Yeah, I mean, Derek, you really did a fantastic
Phil's
job.
here. Phil Kennedy's here.
Okay, Phil, thank you.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I had technical difficulties, but I've been here.
We're on the clarifier unit under item 11 on the agenda. The primary
Yeah,
clarifier.
I've been here for a while, just waiting for a chance to chime in.
Okay, thank you.
Roger.
Jen, do you want to expound at all on that?
Well, I think that you did a great job kind of summarizing some of the benefits that we were able to foresee. I wasn't sure if you wanted to broach the questions first or if you wanted us to kind of talk a little bit about how, our support for the contractors might look to, limit or reduce possible issues or concerns with, the owner-supplied aspect of it.
Bill, do you have a preference?
Well, maybe we should open it up for a couple of questions right now. I would start by saying, this is Bill Costick. I would start by saying, when I got this week's packet, I had to text Derek and congratulate him on putting such a thick packet together. He didn't do it purposely. We have 4 big items on the agenda tonight, and I spent, probably most of you did too, Commissioners, at least 3 hours yesterday trying to go through everything, trying to understand everything, and it's a little bit complicated. And I would just add this. Last month at our meeting, we all, those of us that could make it, went to the wastewater plant, and we had a tour of these facilities. And today, I talked to Jim Budny, and Jim Budny and I went out to the wastewater plant because I really didn't fully comprehend, particularly with these units, the primary clarifier, just how extensive the work was. I thought it was just sort of replacing the motors. Didn't realize that all the equipment in these 10-foot deep water storage units, I want to call them, they're tanks, that all that equipment is replaced. So that we have to empty this water. They're 10-foot deep. They're probably, I'm guessing, 15-foot wide, and the total length of the 3 units in each one, there's 3 units to each one of these. So there's 9 bays below ground, and I would guess that they're 50 feet long, and that's just a guess. But we didn't really fully understand, so Jim and I asked Ryan to walk us through just what would be involved. So those of you that didn't make it, I guess you're at a bit of a disadvantage because it's very complicated stuff. And with that, at this point, is there a burning question that anybody might have? And I would just say, I did a computation that if we buy all this equipment tonight, we'll save at least $50,000 between sales taxes and a markup from a contractor. At least $50,000. So at any rate, anybody have any questions right now, or should we let the suppliers speak?
I have a question.
Okay.
This is Laura. I recognize the savings, but I maybe want to understand a little bit if Sohail would talk about if there's any risk. I mean, Derek kind of mentioned it, but is there any risk when you put it out for bid and you say what your equipment and the installer goes and gets this equipment and installs it versus we buying it? Just from kind of experience, if you can touch on the difference.
So
I'll speak to that real quickly. The risk that you might, this is Randy Hamlet. There's of course risks with everything, as we all know, but it's all about minimizing risk. And what you'll find with this approach, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting together detailed drawings that are going to be part of our manufacturing of this equipment. And those detailed drawings are actually going to be available and provided to your engineer so that they can include that additional information into the bidding documents for the contractors to be evaluating. And so there's risk minimizing there because we're going to be actually augmenting what would normally be done in a conventional bid process, much greater detail so that the contractors, all of them, are looking at the same materials and they know exactly what they're going to be installing. So from that perspective, having come out of the chute, so to speak, with the equipment being manufactured and designed, you're going to be getting much more detailed information put into those bidding documents. And then on top of that, we will be working with all of the bidding contractors once we obtain the list of who's looking at the project, and providing them with additional information, additional instruction, and answering any questions. So you get a much more extensive involvement and both with information and on the bid package itself. So I think what you end up with is a much more competitive bids because you've got all of the contractors with the equal amount of information, and so even some of your less experienced contractors may, obviously will still have the information that is needed. And as a result, I think the bidding process itself is going to be much more accurate, and therefore your pricing will be much more competitive. So that's just one element relative to the bidding process.
Right, and I feel when you're part of kind of verifying the information, my concern was if the township would have to answer all these questions, and then so if you're involved with that, I think that kind of adds a level of comfort to the process.
Sure. Laura, I think your concern is, are we protected by the bonding process during the bidding to cover the equipment? And Hamlet committed that they will support the equipment for at least the duration of the bond, the performance bond is in place. As far as the quality and guarantee and workmanship, the workmanship is definitely the contractors. The equipment supply and the backup of the equipment is Hamlet's. So if they work in tandem with the contractor, I don't think we're going to have any exposure to the risk of having a faulty installation, as long as we're protected on the contractor side by the bond and on the equipment side by the warranty that's provided by Hamlet.
Yep. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
This is Schmidtke.
One question I have, is this product made in the United States of America?
Yes, sir, it is.
No Chinese junk.
No, the manufacturers for Brentwood, yeah, they're right in Pennsylvania, and yes, they are in the United States.
All right, because when I was working and we were putting water main in, they tried to sneak in these fittings from China. And I told them, you take those and send them back wherever you got them. I want the ones that are made in this country. And I was not a very respected person.
So that should be in the contract.
been.
That should be in the contract that they can't outsource Chinese parts, put them in Pennsylvania, and then pretend they're Americans.
That is, since we are considering the direct purchase of the equipment, and we already were told by Jennifer that that's where it's made, I think we're covered as far as that aspect.
Right, but if you put it in writing, you got it in a contract. Jennifer's a well-meaning person. She sounds great. Mr. Hamlin, I've never met him. Sounds great, very knowledgeable. There's nothing the matter with putting something in writing. When you don't, you invite problems.
As far as other equipment that's going to be incorporated in the project, that will also be in writing in the specs that it has to be made in the United States. When we sign the purchase agreement with Hamlet, if the township decides to pursue that option, that will be a condition that the equipment is manufactured in the United States.
Great.
Yeah, there won't be a problem with that.
Manufacturing.
And I want to.
Excuse me.
What I'd like to add to this conversation real quick, though, is that everything that we're speaking of with this particular equipment is going to be very much identical to the next set of equipment that we'll be speaking of. I just wanted to make mention of that, as far as the concerns and benefits in this regard.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Okay, one thing I wanted to say is if we buy it direct as a commission out of the township, we save all that money in taxes, and that's a great savings.
Definitely.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was one of the thoughts that went into that, Les.
I know, we've done that before on some of our water main products. We purchased the product, and the contractor put it in. And then he couldn't turn around and mark the product up and make money off the product, because we owned it, and it was him to put it in.
Yep. Yeah, you also save yourself the contractor markup, and in that case as well.
Okay, I agree.
This is Bill Costick. One question I have for Jennifer and Randy, is it?
Yep.
I see in the proposal that I'm reading this under field services that you're including in the proposal is 1 day of inspection of the field testing, operation, installation, and training. 1 day. So as I talked to Derek about this, we're going to go out and bid. Am I right on the 1 day?
Yeah, so what that actually, I'm glad that you brought that up, because the field service, sometimes you can get pretty lengthy with that. We've been to this facility a number of times, and the first tank in specific, we've actually had Brentwood as well as Randy and then Nathan with our company down there, and they did a pretty thorough evaluation of that tank. So our scope and our understanding of that one is really good. So the intention there would be for the first piece of equipment, once things get installed, usually we come out and we do what we would call an installation check and startup, and then we provide training for the operators. That's not to say that we don't provide assistance ahead of that too, but what we made sure to include was Brentwood coming back out for that specific trip, but you'd have Hamlet as a resource for installation guidance, contractor questions. We'll absolutely be at the site when we need to be. We're not very far from you guys. But we just wanted to call out that we do have a plan to have Brentwood back out to make sure that everything is operational and kind of gets that gold seal of approval for warranty and everything else once everything's installed. And then I think they did mention that the additional services from Hamlet Environmental are included. We left that kind of vague because our intentions are to be very involved. That way we can help the project go as successfully as possible for everybody, answer questions, be at the pre-bid. Basically anything that is needed to make sure that this goes smooth.
All right, well, thank you for that. One other question I have is, how many of these similar facilities have you installed in the state of Michigan?
Oh, goodness. There's quite a few. Randy, do you have a number off the top of your head as far as in our state? I mean, easily. I don't know if Randy heard me.
Well, would you guess a dozen?
Yeah, over a dozen. No, this is nothing new. Brentwood has been around for quite a long time as well, and they have, hundreds of installations, in the States as well as locally. Hold on one second. Let me see. I think, honestly, too,
Yeah, hey, Jen, real quick. I'm kind of laughing, everyone, because I started answering your question, and I had it on mute for about 30 seconds there. So
okay.
I apologize for that, but no, we have certainly well more than a dozen. I would say more than a couple dozen even. We have them in a wide range of installations as far as municipal size. Grand Rapids is one of our larger installations, and we range down in Grosse Seal. It would be what we would call a more smaller or a more small municipality, but this equipment is adaptable and applies across the board, so it really amounts to what size the tanks are. So a larger facility like Grand Rapids is going to have, maybe 20-foot wide tanks, and they might be 150-foot long. It's a very widely used product.
Okay. Thank you.
I've got something I wanted to add. If you refer to page 10 of 10 in the proposal, early on, this is Derek, I had talked about the action item being at $272,600 for the equipment for both tanks. So there'd be 2 tanks. The tank cost, or the equipment cost for tank number 3, which is essentially what we're saying is the first tank we're going to work on, is $152,000. For the second tank that we'll be looking at potentially buying equipment for and doing the install next year is $120,600. So, Jen, can you touch a little bit on what the difference is in cost between the first tank and the additional tank and the equipment that you guys have rolled into the first tank's installation that we don't have to purchase for the second tank?
Yeah, sure thing. So one of the larger ticket items that would be purchased with the first tank, which is tank 3, would be the monitoring system that is recommended. For those of you that have been down to the plant, these are inside, but they're downstairs. The operators are not, they're not around that area all the time. So having a monitoring system in place to prevent catastrophic failure is a really important feature. The control panel that will be provided in the first price will support the additional tanks once those come online. And so that was one of the items that was a little bit larger up front for tank number 3, whereas we wouldn't really see that with the other ones. Furthermore, once we get some of the engineering done, it kind of gets applied like that too. There's a little bit more upfront cost and a little bit more support probably involved with tank number 3. And then the additional tanks, we mostly confirm some dimensions and things, and it's a little bit smoother sailing from there as well. I think, and I do know I meant to mention, so Nathan Hunter, he's the one that put together this proposal. He did jump on, but I think it was a little bit after our introductions. But I don't know if Nate, if you have anything else that you felt would set those apart. I know the monitoring system was the main one.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, everyone. This is Nathan Hunter. I'm with Hamlet Environmental as well. One of the largest ticket item, like Jennifer had said, I'm just going to concur with her there. That is Ryan, the plant manager there, really insisted on having some sort of monitoring system. This equipment, at the expense and cost it is for risk of catastrophic failure. As things get in these tanks or as things get out of whack, we want to prevent that. And with this monitoring system, that's what we want to do. So with this very first tank and tank 3, the cost is much higher simply for the fact that we would be supplying the full panel, monitoring panel, that is going to house all of the PLCs and the components for the monitoring system for this first tank and for the additional 3 tanks that we're looking to do in the future. That's a huge cost savings up front by purchasing the panel with everything in it. And then as additional tanks are purchased down the road that we're looking at. So when you look at the additional tank-based equipment price there for the 12600, the only thing that's included for the additional tanks being added to this panel is the in-tank sensors. Other than that, the panel is included with the largest one. So that's going to be our largest difference. And then the other difference is we've been in this tank, me specifically, along with Randy Hamlet and Brentwood, have been in this tank multiple times for measurements and life expectancy calculations on the components inside and looking at their current conditions. So as we move forward, we're definitely looking at some savings looking at the other tanks because we're very familiar, and as this equipment goes in, the other tanks should follow suit.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. So you actually were able to drain the tank and go in the tank and do your measurements?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We've actually been in this. Yeah, we've been in this tank actually multiple times. So last year we were in this tank for a little pre-inspection. We knew that Ryan had indicated that these tanks were coming to an age of replacement, and we utilized our Brentwood, which is the manufacturer here. While they were in town, we visited multiple locations, including Costick, and entered the tank to look at life expectancy calculations, measurements, wear condition on the parts that were currently in the tank, and give Ryan at Costick, along with you guys there, a life expectancy of what the tank is looking like in the condition down there. We knew these are quite aged at that point, and we knew their life expectancy is very short, to say the least. But the wear on these components has reached their end. And some components were in okay condition, and we've left those out. But for the most part, yes, the tank is drained, and they usually just bypass this, and we come in and we'll enter the tank and take measurements then.
Okay, thank you. Derek?
I'd like to add to that. If I could. This is Randy Hamlet. Nathan mentioned when we were in the tank the last go around. We're looking at certainly refurbishment of these tanks that is going to basically give a life expectancy. And so when we went into the tanks, of course, that was what our eye was looking for. And clearly the mechanism, the chain and everything below and above water was in need of replacement. But there was an item called a scum collector, and that particular item was in very good shape. It's not a really mechanical item that sees a lot of wear and tear as a result. And so when we looked at that and then spoke with the operators, everybody agreed that replacing that would be a needless expenditure. So that was left out of our proposal because it is actually it's almost a static piece of equipment for the most part. It's a very important piece of equipment, but nonetheless, it was in good enough shape that we all agreed that that piece of equipment could certainly last as long as the refurbished system.
Well, thank you for that comment today. Derek.
Randy, can you hear me? I'm John Reilly. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Randy, I have been involved in this sewer treatment plant since the early 80s, and I made the motion and came up with the idea to take it over and operate it rather than have Wayne County operate it, and that was in the early 80s. Les Schmidtke is another man on this commission, and his involvement with the treatment plant probably predates the 80s. I know he was on a rescue call there many, many years ago. So some of us on this commission are somewhat familiar with the history of this plant and the technical operation. Now that said, it's my guess that we don't have any current records that tell us the age of the clarifiers. Is that right, or is that incorrect?
Well, as best as and Sahal might be able to answer this well, or for that matter, Derek, there are some records, and there were certain periods of time where there were improvements or partial refurbishments. So I think the original tankage dated back quite some time. I want to say in
might be the
80s.
70s.
Sure.
It predates.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ohio. It could be in the 70s because there was a lot of renovation in about 76 or 77. I was already a resident out here then. Now, having recognized the equipment is older, some parts in not as good shape as we would hope they would be, what's your guesstimate with a significant amount of accurate Kentucky windage once we do a clarifier project like this per tank? What's the life expectancy? I know we kind of danced around that a little bit in discussions, and I recognize that a pipe breaks, the valve breaks, things happen. But generally speaking, are we looking at this expenditure is then good for a plus 30 years, or what?
Yeah, most everybody looks in our industry at a 20-year life. It's kind of like the norm for most projects. Now, more often than not, that equipment goes beyond that, and obviously that's all dictated by the level of maintenance and care, and all the factors that go into the longevity. But this is a replacement project that this isn't a 1 or 2 year or even a 10-year. This is a kind of what we'll call a lifetime product life replacement.
All right. Are there any warranties? Yes.
Yeah, I will add
Please.
there are some wear components in a system like this that do require maintenance and replacement, but in general, that it definitely is a much longer life expectancy. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm so sorry.
No, you didn't. No, that's fine. And we recognize that sometimes a brand new part might fail in 6 months. Many years ago, the treatment plant had to replace the augers. There was a product defect, and they had to actually remove the roof and reinstall these. There was a significant amount of contract, warranty, and litigation that was involved in that regard. The equipment that goes in this new refurbishment, are there specific years of warranties, 3 to 5, or it's too many pieces, they really don't have a warranty on them? With the augers, they had some bad steel and they were cracking. So what do we know about any warranties that would come with the equipment from the Pennsylvania manufacturer?
The standard warranty is 12 months from startup or 18 months from shipment, whichever comes first. That seems to be kind of an industry standard. You'll actually see that's the same for the 2A equipment as well. And that's all workmanship, defects, that kind of thing.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Okay, are there other questions, comments?
Just quick comment, Bill, if I may. This is Suhail.
Yes.
I want to capitalize on what John brought up, which is a very good point, that you put equipment in. What the township is going through now is what we call an asset management program, that we're going to evaluate every component of the plant and keep track of its condition and apply preventative maintenance whenever we need to. And this will prolong the life cycle of the equipment. If we put it in place and just close our eyes and walk away, of course, we're not going to see any defects or any wear and tear. If you don't maintain it regularly, it's going to, of course, age prematurely and fail. So again, just to reiterate that we are going through an asset management plan, and that we hope is going to attempt to prolong every life cycle and every equipment in the plant.
Okay, thank you. Before we take a vote on this, I'd like to ask Ryan if you have any additional comments, anything we didn't.
This is Ryan. Nothing more. I agree that these primary clarifiers are probably, after your raw sewage pumps, are the most important aspect of the plant. And they're all the same age, about 50 years old. So I think it's the right move. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a very good guess, Ryan.
Yeah, 50 years.
Yep.
All right, so if there are any other comments, Derek?
No.
If there aren't any other questions, I'm ready to take a vote on this to make the purchase. So again, we're going to purchase a purchase price of $272,600 to rebuild one of 3 primary clarifiers at the wastewater plant. And essentially we'd be buying 2 units, one at $152,000 and one at $120,600. May I have a motion to make the purchase?
This is Schmidtke. I will make the motion that we purchase this equipment for the water treatment plant.
Support.
Plant.
Yep. Support by Jim Budny.
All right, Jim, thank you.
Just a point of clarification before you guys go ahead and vote. Just keep in mind that depending upon how the bids come in for the installation, we may be only purchasing equipment for one of the units versus 2 of the units. So I'll keep you apprised, and so I will keep you apprised of how those bids come in and let you know whether we decided to go with the 1 or the 2. But we will put the order in for the $272,600. Between that and the back out date, we'll know what that installation cost is, and then we'll back it out or we'll proceed with it depending upon how those dollar figures come in. So.
Well, Derek, I look at it this way. If you're purchasing for 2, bids come in and you want to get rid of one, why do that? You already have it there. You store it until it comes time to be able to do it.
It's just a matter of what the budget will allow. If it's your preference for me to come back to you guys and say, hey, look, this is where we're going to be, we're going to exceed the budget by X, and you're okay with it, and the township board is okay with it, we can cross that bridge that way if you would like.
Well,
I think that's the way to go. The more we get it now, we can get it, because the next time you go to get it, it's going to be more expensive.
Okay. We should be good with the motion as written, and then we'll just take that under discretion, or not under discretion, or under direction when those bids come in then, Les.
So I think I agree with you too, Les, and I've expressed that to Derek. That raises a question to the suppliers. I'm assuming there's a lot of contractors that are familiar with doing this kind of work that you can recommend that we include on a bid list.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. All right, if there aren't any other questions, all in favor? Well, should we do a roll? It's a lot of money.
It's up to you.
Well, we'll do a roll call vote. Not a roll call. We'll just say all in favor. Indicate by saying aye.
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 And myself included, aye. Are there any opposition to this motion? So it's unanimous, and we'll proceed. Thank you all very much. Next, we have the secondary clarifier center drives. And most of you have been out to the plant, and you've seen the outdoor secondary clarifiers. They're outdoors. And if you remember, there's a walkway that goes out to the center, and what we're replacing is the center drive that drives the whole clarifier unit that makes everything move. And today, again, Jim Budny and I were out there with Ryan and looked at that. He explained how the process of replacing them would work. This is not as much money. These units are for 2 units. It's $75,784. Then, of course, we're going to bid the cost of installation. So with that, Derek, you have anything else to add?
I don't. A lot of the things that apply regarding supplier, bidding, installation, schedule are identical to item A1. They're organized in the action item in a similar fashion. The schedule varies a little bit, but it's included on that page. All the benefits with direct purchase and all that apply in this situation. I think the only primary difference here is how this unit or these units operate as compared to the primaries and the equipment we're going to be swapping out, how that equipment operates as compared to the primaries. It's a different operation. It's a different process, but it's part of the basically the cleaning of the water, the clarifying process, just a different phase. So probably best just to answer questions you might have about this.
Well, I'll start with one, either for Ryan or Sohail. How old are the current units? 40 years old? Is that what we were told?
Yes, maybe about 46 is my guess. Ryan said 50.
All right, so they're same age. They're very old units.
Yeah, and Bill, I think unlike the primary, we are putting Band-Aids on these right now to keep them going with the shear pin problem and other things. So we have there's a little more need to move on these, I think.
Okay, thank you, Jim, for that comment. Everybody's had a chance to read the report. I think the discussion is about the same. Is there anything the suppliers would like to add, or Ryan, or Sohail? Any one of you?
Yeah, I guess just talking a little bit to the nature. This is a drive-only replacement. Ryan has been down in these clarifiers specifically, and the mechanism he felt seemed to be in pretty good shape. So we would only be replacing the drives, which seem to have the most immediate need, which is, it's a pretty straightforward process. We expect it to go pretty smoothly we've done a lot of drive retrofits in Michigan with Westech. It's something that they're very comfortable doing, and we have dozens of installations in this regard here too. So a little bit different. It's not a complete replacement. We would be working with the existing structure and replacing just the drive here.
Okay, thank you.
Jennifer, can you speak a little bit to the electrical components that you specified in this? Because I know we had talked, it's actually beyond just the drives. There's some electrical components. Can you speak to those a little bit?
Yeah. Actually, if you go, I think it's page 13 of the attachment, there's a picture of the existing belt drive, and you can see to the left there is basically it's a push-button station that allows the unit to be operated while you're standing right there. It also has some indicator lights. There was some need expressed based on Suhail's last time out there too, that we might need to look at replacing those as well. So we did pull that into our scope. Getting the power and everything to that, that would be still on the contractor side, but the electrical box to operate the unit would be included as well as, the motor and the drive itself.
Thank you.
Other comments? Sohail or Ryan, do you wish to speak to this?
I think they have it covered, Bill. What we're trying to do is make sure that the power supply is as reliable as the equipment itself to make sure that it operates without any failures. So Jennifer and Randy covered that with their equipment, so we should be all set.
Okay, thank you. Ryan, anything else?
This is Ryan. nothing more to add to that.
No, it's a high priority for you because, as Jim said, you're piecing it together right now to make it work.
Yes, we are. So, yep.
Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none. With that, can I have a motion to purchase the...
Schmidtke to purchase the parts and stuff to repair this clarifier.
Support Budny.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? If not, all in favor of making the purchase of $75,784 for the center units for the secondary clarifiers. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposition? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, well, with that, I think that our guests can get off the line. Is that correct, Derek? You have any other comments?
Yes. No, I'm good. Thank you guys very much for attending. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day for doing us.
Thank you very much for including us, and I do have to applaud all of you for taking the time to go out to the plant, too. I think it's really proactive and fantastic. I wish more council people would do that because it makes a world of a difference in what we do.
Thank you very much. Okay, well, I guess you're free to go, and we appreciate you being on the phone with us tonight.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. The next item we have is the water rate increase item, and Derek, I'll turn that over to you.
For fiscal year 2020 through 2021, we had proposed in our budget a 3.5% rate increase, and essentially this was a rate increase that was being imposed in our budget to account for increases in costs from GLWA for the wholesale water that we purchase. So that was basically the only increase that we were imposing was to cover that cost. So that brings the per thousand or gallon price from $11.18 up to $11.57 per unit, which is 1,000 gallons, and will be effective with our July billing. So, which, as you recall, we bill on a quarterly basis, so we'll be able to catch those July bills moving forward with this new rate increase for our budgeted revenue amounts.
So it's actually a 3.22 increase?
Yeah, it's a 3.5% increase. 3.22, I'm sorry, per quarter. Right, but 3.5 on the rates.
And it turns out to be $9.75, so that it's about little $39 a year.
Correct.
On an average consumer. Are there questions? This is something that we talked about at budget time. And if you recall, last year we did not increase the water rates. Any comments, questions?
I just want to add that although we didn't do it last year, we've done it in the past, and it is just passing that on to our residents. It is following, we're following the same pattern that we've done in the past.
Yeah, and if you recall, I think 2 years ago or a year ago, we had contract negotiations with GLWA, so that didn't necessarily result in a cost increase last year, so that's why you wouldn't have seen an increase to account for a GLWA increase in rates. So it's basically following, as Jim had mentioned, the past practice. Last year was no exception. We were following past practice in the fact that we didn't see an increase, so we didn't impose an increase. So,
okay. Is there any discussion, questions?
I have a question, Bill. It's as to the township's most recent fiscal year final report and audit. Was that filed with the state, or is it currently still under extension?
I don't know.
Jim Budny or Derek would know that, probably.
As far as I know, it's been filed.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any other questions? 3. Somebody's ringing.
2, 3, call.
All right, so if there aren't any other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the water rate increase as proposed.
I'll make a motion to approve the water rate increase for the rates on water for fiscal year 2021 from $11.18 per thousand to $11.57 per thousand.
Okay, Jim, thank you. Is there support?
Kennedy will support.
Okay, Phil, thank you. If there's no further discussion, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there opposition? Motion passed, unanimous. Thank you. The last action item we have is a proposed sewer rate increase. All of our cost estimates in the past for improvements at the plant are much higher than we ever thought they would be. And so our sewer rate is really low compared to the water rate. At any rate, they don't have to be equal, but I feel we need an adjustment in the sewer rate, and I'm proposing that we make a minor adjustment, which would total $14.12 a year to the average consumer. We need to start someplace, and if necessary, so Hal can speak, and Derek can too, to the fact that when we do the audit and it goes to the state, they're going to take a look at our sewer rates. And to avoid a huge increase down the road in years ahead, I think we ought to build something in this year. It's small, but it raises $55,000 and will help with this year's and next year's budget. So the recommendation is to make a small adjustment in the sewer rate. Taken together, instead of it being just $39 for water for the average consumer, this would put us at about $54 to the average consumer. And I really think we should make a small adjustment in this sanitary sewer rate. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Bill, I'll just make a comment, and I do agree with you. And if you just read the commissioners, if you just read your history and purpose there, what we just talked about earlier, passing with the capital improvements that we're going to do that have to be done both this year, next year, and down the road, along with the asset management program and the ACO agreement with the state. We're going to need more than what we have, and I think this is a good way to start.
Is that a motion, Jim?
It's not a motion, it's a comment.
Okay. Can I have a motion from somebody?
I'll motion Pusdesris.
All right, I'll
okay,
support.
Lenny. All right, Lenny made the motion and Jim support. Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the motion. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed indicate by the same sign. Hearing none, motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay. Next item on the agenda is our director's report. Derek?
And just a couple of things. That all these action items we had tonight, just wanted a point of clarification. They will be on the agenda for the Township Board on the 14th of September. So just so you know, that's the next step in the process for these, and there'll be presentations made at that meeting regarding all 4 of these items. So if you want to tune in, you can hear it a second time. So I do have a copy of the lost water report in the packet. For the month of June, on the running total, we were at 14.466%. So that's included in your packet, as well as the I&I report for the wastewater treatment plant. Something interesting to show, If you take a look at the month of June for the gallons purchased from GLWA, and then the plant, the treated gallons at the wastewater treatment plant, we dropped down to around 50% I&I. So there's definitely a correlation between the rainfall that we have and the amount of I&I we have in the system. You can tell with June being a fairly dry month, our I&I dropped almost 26% from the month of May. So kind of some interesting figures for you to be able to see. Are there any questions regarding the lost water report?
No.
Next down, go ahead.
No, and thank you very much, Derek, for doing that. At least we know what's going on every month.
No problem. Next thank you, Les. Under my report, under item 2 is the projects update. So, Hyle, do you want to take us through this? Are you still on the line?
Sure, I'm still on the line. If you don't mind, I will go through these items. Hello, everyone, again. Under utility projects, the Park Lane drainage project is still on hold. The water elevations are still high. We cannot perform a topographic survey on that. The Swan Island drainage project, that's moving forward. We awarded the contract to TSP and Mansell. The contracts were signed. Shop drawings for the panel were submitted, reviewed, and approved. We are still awaiting submittal of the pump shop drawings to review them and approve them. And we're pushing the supplier that item. Go ahead.
So if I might interrupt, Phil, you had asked kind of where that stands. I don't know if you got my email from earlier today. I did talk.
I did. I got your email.
Okay, so for the benefit of the commission, I did speak with TSP. They're planning on starting work on the Tideflex on Wednesday, and then they'll break ground for the pump station infrastructure beginning of next week. Originally, they had planned on phasing the work. It sounds like they changed their game plan on this project. They decided to go ahead and do it all at once. They'll put the underground infrastructure in place. They might end up having to wait for the pumps, but at least all the infrastructure will be in place rather than the phasing we were going to do before. They said probably about 2 to 3 weeks with regards to the completion of that work. And then he had sent an email earlier putting in a writing to me late in the day today. So hopefully that gives you an update as to where things stand with that.
Yes, thank you, Derek.
Yep. Sorry, Sohail. Go ahead.
No problem. I wasn't privy to that information. Sorry about that. This one was issued on the 20th. On the water main projects, the same status. We will be rebidding the projects for 2021 construction. On the sanitary sewer system, township-wide, John will probably cover that. We are reviewing the phase 3 tapes now. On the raw sewage pump number 1, we did receive proposals from process piping and from Suez. Suez submitted a better price. We awarded the project to them. We are waiting for them to mobilize and start the installation of the raw sewage pump number 1 and the downstream piping. For the raw sewage pump number 4 and intermediate pump, this project...
Can I stop you about number 1? I hope another month doesn't go by and they don't start.
On which? On the pump number 1?
The sewage pump number 1, that Suez was a little bitter.
Yeah.
I would ask, you are...
This is Ryan. Yeah, this
when
is
are
Ryan.
They going to get...
Suez is currently scheduling that work right now. Hopefully within a couple weeks here. I'll let you know immediately.
So
yeah.
Yeah, I hope before our next meeting we don't have the same report that they're scheduling. So why don't you keep Derek apprised of the date they're going to do the work? Okay.
Okay, Bill.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so I'll go out to Ross.
So let me back up a little bit. Ryan, you said you'll know in 2 weeks when they're going to start, or they're going to start in 2 weeks? I'm sorry.
Starting, hopefully within a couple weeks here.
Okay.
I'll let you know the latest. I mean, I'm trying to move it along as fast as I can. So,
Good.
yep.
Thanks, we appreciate that. On the raw sewage pump number 4 and intermediate pumps, those are going to be bundled with the ACO improvements projects. We did request extension of time from the Eagle Oxes, and we're hoping they'll grant that extension of time. They may be bid along with the additional clarifier at the same time. The submittal for these plans is due December 30th. We'll submit those for permits from Eagle. Then we'll wait to bid them in 2022 for 2024 construction to be completed in 2025 in conjunction with the ACO improvements.
And if you guys know, not to interrupt, Sohail, but that budget memo or that budget amendment memo that was included in your packet, you'll notice raw sewage pump number 4 that Sohail's talking about is indicated to coincide with the ACO work in 2023 and 2025. And the amendment, the ACO amendment and waiver subnote with regards to that item is included in there. So if you keep a copy of this budget memo handy, on a monthly basis, you'll kind of see these projects get scheduled, within this memo, based upon the comments that are made in this project report. So just so I wanted to call your attention to that.
Okay. Moving on to the HVAC lab unit, we contacted a contractor to look at some intermediate repairs to the heating system till we decide to have a more comprehensive evaluation for next budget year. We're having the whole HVAC system now being analyzed as part of the asset management inventory and condition assessment. We'll find out then what's needed, and we'll pursue that afterward. But for now, we talked to a contractor about coming out and looking at the current connections and see if they can take care of the heating needs immediately. On the bar screen projects, the bar screens were completed and started. We do have some punch list items that the parent will be addressing, including the debris discharge and the compactor issues. And they are going to be coming to the site to look at the conditions and do the improvements. The project hasn't been finalized again. It's part of the punch list for them to come out and take a look at and troubleshoot what's going on with it. On the basis of design, the plant improvements, the topographic survey was done. We received also the soil borings, and the design is in progress. We are coordinating OHM, the nuclear fire piping and connections. The asset management plan preparation on the sewer system at the treatment plant, the consultant staff were out there last week, and they started preparing the asset inventory. That will be followed by the condition assessment. And after that is done, and we'll finish the condition assessment, we'll be starting to look at the rate structures that was referenced earlier, as far as looking at the rates based on the improvements to the plant and the asset management plan that we have in place. I'm sorry.
Sorry. The same company that's doing the asset management plan was also out doing the maintenance audit in conjunction with the asset management plan. So that maintenance audit that you guys had approved some months ago, that is underway. So just so you know where that stands.
Hey guys, this is Lenny. Can I interrupt real quick? We've got a call, so if I can pardon myself, I'd appreciate it.
Thanks, Lenny. Good luck.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Yeah, goodbye, Lenny.
The primary and final clarifiers improvements, we are completing the specifications to go out for bids, and we just had a presentation by the equipment suppliers, and the options that were presented were to do a direct purchase of the equipment versus conventional bidding and purchasing. So The primary clarifiers improvements will be undertaken in phases over a 3 years period. Then after those are completed, we'll look at the chlorine contact chamber improvements. There are also thoughts out there to see if we can enlarge the chlorine contact chamber to mitigate some of the violations we're getting from Eagle. So the final clarifier improvements will take place in 1 year period. So that will be done, it will not be phased. Okay, that's all I have, Derek, on my report.
Thank you, Sohail.
Thank you. How about give us an update on the glass recycling?
Yeah, Bill mentioned the glass recycling that you guys had approved a couple of weeks ago. I did hear from Priority today. The container will be here probably the end of this week. They have received the container at their yard. They were putting some stickers on it, and they're hoping to schedule delivery for either Thursday or Friday. At the latest, it'll be Monday or Tuesday of next week. We are going to have an article in the Grozio Grand, which will touch base, and I think that goes to publication right around mid-September. That article has already been written and forwarded to the Grozio Grand. There is a flyer that will go out to the residents via Facebook, or the Grozio Facebook page that Priority assisted putting together. Also, the publication channels, which our recreation department sends out to all of our residents, that'll have the flyer in it as well. So we'll have all the information out to the residents about what they can and they cannot do, and the availability of the container. So there shouldn't be any question about what's available and when it's available and how it's available. So that's where we stand with glass recycling. There also will be, for the benefit of any residents who might be watching, we are still going to be doing a Dump the Junk event. That'll be, I believe it's September 12th. And it's not going to be a Find the Treasure thing. And I know DPS doesn't necessarily sponsor that, but it is a service we provide to the residents. It's going to be social distancing, masks, and the whole 9 yards, but we are going to be having that on the 12th of September down at the DPW yard. So just so the residents know that's going to be available to them. And we've already started getting the word out about that, too. So 2 quick updates. Thank you, Bill.
Okay, how about John Keim? Anything going on, John?
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, John Keim. Just a few little updates. We completed our 3rd water main break for the month earlier this evening. Just a reminder to everybody that does not have it, sign up for Grozio Connect, and you'll know why you're out of water before we shut your water off. Our flushing program is still ongoing. Currently, we're at Bellevue heading south. So it'll be a couple more weeks till we get that completed. Phase 3 of the sanitary sewer cleaning and televising program is progressing. We're about 60% complete at this time. We're currently at East River and Grays Drive working southbound. And also the DPS will be starting to come around to visit the lead and copper sites that we've been to throughout the years. So if you see us come, please be receptive to helping us out with our lead and copper sampling. And also the 3rd application of dust control was applied successfully, and I'd like to acknowledge the Sibley Yard and their crew for helping to grade the roads and be part of the program to make that a great success. That's all at this time, Bill.
Okay, John, thank you. And I know that you've been working with the Sibley Yard to keep the potholes filled on the Meridian.
Yes, sir. It's really getting beat up very bad.
It sure is. Okay. I don't think there's any items for us. Oh, Ryan. Ryan, do you have anything else you want to add to in terms of a report?
Hey, this is Ryan. Nothing. We've had low flows at the plant, fortunately in that, but just usual operations, and I don't have nothing new to add. So.
All right, thanks, Ryan. Got a lot of work going on there. I don't think there's any discussion items for the commission. I have no other report or comments. How about let's go around with the commissioners. So We'll start with the infamous Les Schmidtke.
All right, let me check and make sure this thing was on mute. Did you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay. Friday, I took a little cruise around Grace Hill, and I stopped on the bridge, talked to the Cornell crew, and I ended up talking to the Toby crew. The Cornell crew is, one lane is already open, the new bridge is open, and they're tearing the old section of the southbound lane out. And the guys that are on the Toby crew, I couldn't figure out what they were doing because they were blasting. It looked like they were taking out the West River Bridge over the canal. I don't know what they were doing. But anyhow, they both look like they're progressing very well.
Yeah, they were pouring concrete there today.
Which bridge?
West River.
West River.
Because I said they had that all formed in and everything.
Yep.
But I don't know if I told you guys the last month that I went down there and talked to one of the foremen, and he told me that that bridge is going to be done before December, way before December.
That's good news.
And also, I talked to Kurt Corneffel, and Kurt told me that the county rejected his bids on the other bridge. And what they're looking at doing now is they're looking at grouting the pillars. And what Kurt says, that's not a good idea.
So, Les, where are you talking about?
I'm talking about the Green Bridge.
The Green Bridge?
Swingspan, the Green Bridge. Parkway Bridge.
So you're talking about the base work underwater?
Right. That's what they're going out to bid for now is they having grout work done to the pillars.
Good. Just a point of clarification, the second bid request was for that scope of work, which I think all indications are that that's going to be rejected. So I think we're probably on to a third iteration sometime next year regarding that, and I don't know what that scope of work is going to be yet. It might remain grouting, I don't know. But Kurt, I think, had proposed something other than that some time ago during the first round of bidding. So that's
Kurt was the first go around. He wasn't part of the second.
Man.
Yeah.
All right. Les.
Anyhow, that's all I got to report.
Thanks, Les. Phil.
You're welcome.
Phil?
No, I have nothing to. I have nothing to report.
All right, thank you, Laura.
Nothing on my end, thank you.
John Reilly.
Yes, things have been gloriously clarified tonight. I have nothing further at this juncture.
We are really eloquent tonight, that's for sure. Lenny's gone. Jim Budny.
I have nothing more to add.
All right. I have nothing more to add, so with that, we'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Well, I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:23 p.m. on August the 24th.
And I will support that.
All in favor indicate by aye.
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 The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thanks,
You're
everybody.
welcome, Bill.